AITA for refusing to co-sign my brother-in-law's loan after my wife's ultimatum? The first thing people usually ask is why I let it go on for so long. Fair question. I'm Derek, 42, and I had been married to Audrey for 7 years by the time I finally admitted our marriage had a third person in it, her brother's unpaid emergencies. I'm not someone who enjoys public conflict. I keep receipts in a kitchen drawer, I compare insurance renewals before paying them, and I would rather have an uncomfortable conversation in private than turn dinner into a courtroom. For a long time, Audrey called that patience. Her family treated it like a weak spot. When I first met Audrey, one of the things I loved most about her was how loyal she was to the people in her life. She remembered birthdays without checking a calendar. She called relatives after doctor appointments. If someone was going through a hard week, she showed up with food and stayed to wash the dishes. That warmth felt genuine because it was genuine. Audrey wasn't pretending to care about people. The problem was that somewhere along the way, caring for her brother became the same thing as protecting him from every consequence he created. Landon was 34, 2 years younger than Audrey, and had been almost back on his feet for as long as I had known him. The first time he asked us for money, it was only $300. Audrey was standing at the kitchen counter when she showed me the Venmo request. The note said, "Short until Friday." "He's embarrassed," she said. "Please don't make him feel smaller than he already does." "I'm not trying to make him feel small. I'm asking what happened." "His rent went up. He had a bad month." It sounded plausible. Everyone can have a bad month. I sent the money. Friday came and went. Then another Friday. Landon stopped answering my texts for almost 3 weeks, though he somehow found time to post pictures from a sports bar. When I finally asked Audrey when he planned to repay us, she sighed as if I had brought up money at a funeral. "He knows he owes you. He told me Friday." "He's humiliated, Derek." "I'm not humiliating him. I'm asking him to do what he said." She told me I was making money weird. That phrase became one of her favorites. A few months later, Landon needed $780 for a car repair. He said the car was the only thing keeping him employed and promised to pay us in 2 installments. Audrey transferred the money from our joint checking account before we had fully discussed it. "When I noticed," she said, "I knew you'd agree once you understood." That sentence bothered me more than the transfer itself. You didn't give me a chance to agree. I was trying to solve a problem. With money we both used for the mortgage and bills. We had enough. That was true. We did have enough. Audrey always used that fact as if it settled the issue. The car repair was never repaid. Then came the urgent insurance bill. Landon called Audrey while we were eating leftover pasta one night and said his policy was about to lapse. Audrey had an authorized user card connected to one of my personal credit accounts because she used it for groceries, household purchases, and emergencies. She asked if Landon could use it to make the payment. I said he could charge the insurance amount if he sent us the exact bill first. He sent a screenshot showing $412 due. The card was charged $412, then $96 at a sporting goods store, $58 at a bar, and $143 at a hotel 2 towns over. When I called Landon, he acted confused. That was probably a hold. A sporting goods store doesn't put a hotel hold on a credit card. I had to grab something for work. "What did you buy for work at a bar?" He got quiet, then irritated. "Why are you grilling me over every little thing?" I told Audrey I'd straighten it out. Audrey took the phone from me and ended the call. "You came at him too hard," she said. "He used my card for things I did not approve. He's under pressure. So am I, apparently. I just didn't know I was paying for his hotel." That argument lasted 2 days. Audrey kept saying the extra charges were not enough to damage us. I kept telling her the amount was not the only point. She eventually promised Landon would repay the full balance. He sent $100 about a month later and nothing after that. The first time Sheila called me stingy was at Sunday dinner. Sheila was Audrey and Landon's mother, and she had a sentence for every situation where someone else was expected to rescue her son. Family helps family. That night, I had asked Landon whether he had set up a payment plan for what he owed us. He stared at his plate. Audrey's shoulders tightened. Sheila put down her fork and looked at me with the patient disappointment of a school principal. Family helps family, Derek. I remember taking a sip of water before answering because I knew Audrey was watching for my tone. Then why does that sentence only come out when I'm holding the bill? Sheila's face hardened. That's a very ugly way to look at people you're supposed to love. I'm asking about money Landon promised to repay. You turned everything into a transaction. No, he turned it into a transaction when he said it was a loan. Audrey kicked my ankle under the table. On the drive home, she accused me of embarrassing her mother. I asked why Landon breaking his word was less embarrassing than me mentioning it. She said, "Because you don't understand how our family works." I should have paid more attention to that sentence too. The rules really did only go one way. If Landon needed something, Audrey said we were fortunate enough to help. If I asked Sheila why she couldn't co-sign, lend money, or put anything at risk herself, I was cruel for dragging an older woman into it. If I suggested Landon sell something, cut back, or show us a budget, I was treating him like a child. But if I stayed quiet and paid, I was a good husband. At first, I told myself that every family had one difficult relative. I didn't want to become the husband who made Audrey feel as though she had to abandon her family to stay married. I also didn't want every dinner, birthday, and holiday to become a debate over money. So I let small things go. The problem with letting small things go is that people stop seeing them as favors. They start seeing them as access. My younger sister Paige saw it before I did. One afternoon, after Landon had sent another Zelle request marked urgent insurance, I showed it to her while we were standing in my kitchen. She read the note, looked at me, and handed back my phone. He has insurance emergencies more often than most people have birthdays. I'm not sending it. Good. Audrey's going to say I'm punishing him over the past. Paige leaned against the counter and crossed her arms. You keep calling it helping. They keep treating it like access. She feels responsible for him. She's allowed to feel responsible with her own money. She's not allowed to volunteer your credit score. At that point, I thought Paige was being harsh. A few weeks later, my best friend Grant gave me the same warning in a less polite way. I had told him I wanted to sit Landon down and force him to explain every dollar he owed us. Grant listened, then said, "Don't give them volume. Give them documents." What does that mean? It means stop having arguments nobody can prove happened. Save statements. Save requests. Save emails. If you blow up, Audrey's family will remember the one sentence you shouted and forget the $10,000 that got you there. It's not $10,000. You sure? I wasn't. That night, I went through old emailed statements. The amounts were spread out over years, hidden between grocery bills, utilities, household repairs, and normal spending. A few hundred here, 800 there. A transfer from our joint account. A card payment. A temporary phone bill. 2 months of car insurance. A cash withdrawal Audrey said was for her brother's late fee. It came to a little over $9,400, not counting the unauthorized hotel, bar, and store charges that had gone on my card. When I showed Audrey, she barely looked at the total. You made a spreadsheet? I added up the statements. That is exactly what I mean when I say you make money weird. $9,000 is not weird. It's a number. Over 7 years. Yes, 7 years of the same emergency. She walked away from the table and told me she didn't want to fight. I thought I was keeping the peace by dropping it. What I was really doing was teaching everyone that the argument ended when I got tired enough. The loan came up 11 days before our anniversary. Audrey mentioned it while we were cleaning up after dinner. She was rinsing plates, and I was putting leftovers into containers. Landon has a real opportunity to reset everything, she said. I closed the lid on the container in my hands. What does that mean? He found a consolidation loan. For what? His debts. How much? She turned off the faucet. About $48,000. I actually laughed once because I thought I had misheard her. $48,000? It would roll everything into one payment. Why are you telling me? Her eyes shifted toward the sink. He needs a cosigner. No. You didn't even let me explain. I do not need a longer explanation to know I'm not guaranteeing $48,000 for Landon. He can make the payments. Then why does he need me? Because his credit took a hit. From not making payments? That is not fair. It's the exact question the lender is asking. Audrey dried her hands on a towel and told me I was reacting emotionally. I asked for the principal amount, interest rate, monthly payment, repayment term, late fees, current balances, and an explanation of what the money was actually for. She didn't know. Then there is nothing to discuss. There is plenty to discuss. He needs one signature. One signature that makes me responsible for $48,000. You always make it sound ugly. It is debt. It does not become pretty because he calls it a fresh start. She stared at me for a few seconds, then said, "We can talk about it before our anniversary dinner." No, our anniversary is not a family finance meeting. Landon and Mom will already be there for a drink. That was the moment I understood she had already arranged it. You invited them? Just before the reservation. I want everyone to talk like family. Then cancel it. Her voice sharpened. I'm not canceling my mother because you're uncomfortable. This is not a conversation, Audrey. It's an ambush. She picked up the towel again and folded it over the oven handle with far more care than necessary. If you're so sure your answer is right, you should be able to say it in front of them. Grant's advice came back to me. Be boring. Be documented. So I didn't argue further. I told her I would show up, listen, and not sign anything. She looked almost relieved. That should have scared me more than it did. On the night of our anniversary, Audrey wore the dark green dress she knew I liked. She was quiet in the car and spent most of the drive looking at her phone. I had made a reservation at a restaurant we had gone to early in our marriage. I thought some part of her might still decide that using our anniversary to pressure me was too far. Instead, when we entered the lounge, Landon and Sheila were already sitting at a round table with water glasses, cocktails, and a stack of papers. Audrey sat beside Landon, not beside me. Sheila smiled, as if we were there to celebrate good news. I'm glad we can finally get this settled, she said. Nothing is settled, I replied. Landon tapped the paperwork. It's not as bad as Audrey made it sound. Audrey gave him a look. I pulled out the chair across from them and sat down. How much? $45,000, maybe $48,000, depending on fees. Interest rate. It adjusts. To what? It's all in there. Monthly payment. Manageable. That is not a number. He leaned back. Why do you have to interrogate me? Because you want my name on your debt. It's not like I'm asking you to hand me cash. It's just your name. That sentence told me everything I needed to know about how Landon viewed credit. I looked at the first page. Several fields were already filled in. His information was typed neatly. Under the proposed cosigner section, my full name appeared, along with my date of birth and part of my address. My stomach tightened. Why is my information already on this? Audrey answered before Landon could. They needed to see whether it was worth moving forward. Who gave them my information? It's basic household information. That was not my question. Sheila leaned toward me. A marriage means what's yours is Audrey's too. My social security number is not a casserole dish, Sheila. Audrey's jaw tightened. Don't speak to my mother that way. I asked who filled this out. Landon pulled the papers closer to himself. Nobody submitted anything final. We were just preparing. Preparing with my personal information. Because you were going to sign, Audrey said. No, I wasn't. Her face changed then. Until that moment, she had been using the soft voice she used when she wanted to appear reasonable. Now the audience mattered more than the conversation. You always do this, she said. You make me beg you to care. I am asking basic questions about a $48,000 loan. You are making my brother prove he deserves help. He owes us money from 3 emergencies ago. Landon muttered. Here we go with the receipts. Yes, I said. Here we go with the unpaid receipts. Sheila shook her head. A real man does not sit at an anniversary table counting what family owes him. A real family does not turn an anniversary into a loan closing. Audrey's eyes were wet, but she wasn't crying. Not yet. You're making me choose between my husband and my brother. I did not create that choice. You did when you said no. No. You created it when you decided my signature was the price of loyalty. The server approached, saw the papers in our faces, then quietly asked if we needed more time before moving to the dining room. Audrey told her yes. Then she took my left hand. For half a second, I thought she was trying to reconnect with me. Instead, she pulled off my wedding ring. Before I could react, she dropped it into her water glass. It hit the ice with a small metallic click. Everyone at the table went silent. Audrey slid a pen toward me. Sign for my brother, or stop calling yourself my husband. I looked at the ring at the bottom of the glass. Then I looked at her. I pushed the pen back. Then you'll need a new husband tonight. Landon gave a short laugh, like he thought I was performing. Audrey did too. She thought I would get embarrassed, take the ring out, sign, and spend the rest of the evening apologizing for upsetting her. Instead, I reached into the glass, took out the ring, and dried it with my napkin. I placed enough cash on the table to cover my drink and part of the appetizers they had already ordered. Then I stood. Landon called after me. Real family doesn't walk away when somebody's drowning. I turned around. Real family doesn't trap someone into debt and call it love. Then I left. The first message arrived before I reached my car. It was from Audrey. You humiliated me in front of my mother. Then Sheila. I hope you are proud of what you did to your wife. Then Landon. Thanks for ruining my chance to rebuild. By the time I got home, 2 relatives I barely spoke to had texted me. One said marriage was about sharing. Another said Audrey felt unsafe discussing money with me. That phrase stopped me. Unsafe. Not angry. Not disappointed. Unsafe. Lauren, a mutual friend who had known both of us for years, texted a little later. Audrey is devastated. I know money is sensitive, but freezing her out in front of her family was harsh. You should at least call her. I hadn't frozen anything yet. That was when I realized Audrey was already telling a version of the story in which she had asked for help and I had used money to punish her. I typed 3 different responses and deleted all of them. Then I called Grant. He answered on the second ring. Tell me you didn't break anything. I left. Good. She put my information on the loan paperwork. He paused. What information? My full name, date of birth, address. I don't know what else. Check your credit. Now. I opened my banking app first. Our joint checking account looked normal at a glance. The mortgage, utilities, insurance, and groceries had all cleared. Then I searched transfers to Landon. There was one from 6 days earlier for $1,250 with a note, insurance help. I had never heard about it. I opened my personal credit card account. Audrey's authorized user card was still active. Landon's old card had supposedly been destroyed after the hotel incident, but the account history showed a recent attempt to add another authorized user. It had not gone through because the bank needed more information. Then I checked my email. There was a credit monitoring alert from that morning. An inquiry had been initiated, and another email asked me to verify information related to a loan application. I had ignored it because I was busy getting ready for our anniversary dinner and assumed it was marketing. Grant stayed on the phone while I opened it. The email named the bank and referenced a proposed cosigner file. Call the number on the bank's official website, Grant said, not the number in the email, and record the time of every call. I did. A representative answered after I worked through the verification prompts. She was calm and procedural. We are calling to verify your authorization as a proposed cosigner, she said. I never authorized an application. There was a pause while she reviewed the account. The application is not complete. It cannot proceed without your direct confirmation. Do not process anything with my name attached. I did not agree to borrow or guarantee that money. She noted my refusal, flagged the file for review, and told me how to request written confirmation. I asked whether my identifying information had been entered. She couldn't tell me who entered it, but she confirmed that a proposed cosigner profile existed under my name. When I ended the call, the house felt unusually quiet. Audrey still had not come home. I stood in the kitchen and looked at the ordinary things around me. The dish towel over the oven handle, 2 coffee mugs beside the sink, the anniversary card I had bought her still sealed in the drawer. I was angry, but the anger was almost too clean. It didn't feel hot. It felt cold and precise. This was not another argument over helping Landon. My wife had taken information from our household paperwork, helped put my name into a loan process, and arranged a public humiliation campaign to force the final signature. At 10:17, I received another text from Lauren. She says you control all the accounts and she has to ask permission to spend anything. Is that true? It was not true. Audrey had her own income, her own checking account, full access to our joint household account, and an authorized card on my personal credit line. We had agreed that large transfers from the joint account required a conversation. She had ignored that agreement more than once. I replied only, no, I'm not discussing this through other people tonight. A little after 11, Audrey came home. She entered the kitchen without looking at me and placed her phone on the counter. Her makeup had smudged under one eye. You let me leave our anniversary dinner with my mother, she said. You invited your mother to our anniversary dinner. You knew what I meant. I know what you meant now. Her phone lit up on the counter. The preview was visible from where I stood. It was from Landon. If he refuses again, make him look controlling. He folds when people are watching. Neither of us moved for a second. I took out my phone and photographed the lock screen preview without touching hers. Audrey grabbed her phone and turned it face down. Why is your brother texting you about making me look controlling? You're taking that out of context. What context makes that sentence better? He's upset. He says again. He says I fold when people are watching. You are acting paranoid. No. I just got off the phone with the bank. The color drained from her face. What bank? The one with my name on Landon's cosigner file. She opened her mouth, then closed it. That was not an application, she said finally. It was a pre-qualification. With my information. We needed to know whether you could help. You already knew I could. You wanted to know how much of me you could use. That's disgusting. So is putting my name into debt without asking me. I did ask you. You asked after you started the file. She folded her arms. I knew you'd say no first. You always say no before you calm down and do the right thing. I stared at her. You planned the dinner because you thought you could embarrass me into signing. I planned the dinner because you don't listen when it's just me. That is the same answer. You always make me drag compassion out of you. No. You try to drag a signature out of me. There's a difference. She started crying then. Real tears, not the controlled wet eyes from the restaurant. For years, tears had changed the direction of every argument we had. I would stop defending my point and start trying to calm her down. That night, I did not move toward her. She noticed. You're just standing there. I don't know what part of this you expect me to comfort you through. I was trying to help my brother. You used my information. Nothing was finalized. Because the bank called me. She insisted she had not known exactly what Landon entered. Then she admitted she had given him access to old household paperwork because he needed dates and account details. She said she did not give him my full social security number, only the last 4 digits from an old insurance document. As if that made it acceptable. Then she said the $1,250 transfer was for his insurance and a deposit connected to the loan. I asked why she had hidden it. I knew you'd make it a fight. You keep saying that as if my reaction is the reason you lied. She wiped her face. You don't understand the pressure I'm under. From who? My mother. Landon. Everybody expects me to fix this. Then tell them no. You make that sound easy. It is easier than stealing access to my name. She flinched at the word stealing. I did not take it back. Audrey slept in the guest room. I stayed awake at the kitchen table until almost 3 in the morning. I did not empty our accounts. I did not cancel the utilities. I did not send messages to her family. I did not post anything online. I froze my credit with all 3 major bureaus. I called the bank again in the morning and confirmed the loan file was flagged. I removed Audrey as an authorized user from my personal credit line. I canceled the card number Landon had used before. I changed passwords on my individual financial accounts and turned on 2-factor authentication. Then I opened a separate checking account for my personal deposits. I left enough money in our joint account for the mortgage, utilities, groceries, insurance, and other agreed household expenses. I set alerts for transfers over $100. I was not trying to starve my marriage. I was cutting the pipe that kept leaking into Landon's life. When Audrey woke up and saw that her authorized card no longer worked, she called me controlling. I told her she still had her own money, her own cards, and access to the household account. You cut me off without warning. I cut off access to my personal credit after you used my information for your brother. I needed that card for the house. Use the joint debit card for the house. You're punishing me. I am protecting myself. She followed me into the hallway. You cannot make decisions like this without me. That is an incredible sentence to hear from you today. She stopped talking. Grant came over that afternoon. He sat at the kitchen table while I showed him the bank email, the account transfer, the attempted authorized user edition, and the picture of Landon's text preview. Do not threaten them, he said. Do not accuse Landon of identity theft in a family text. Let the bank decide what it calls the application. I want to tell everyone what they did. Not yet. Organize it first. Paige arrived later with takeout and a level of anger that made Grant look gentle. Audrey isn't being torn between you and Landon, she said. She's tying you to Landon and calling it marriage. Audrey was still in the guest room. Paige lowered her voice anyway. I'm not telling you to blow up your marriage. I'm telling you to stop paying admission to it. The next morning, I contacted an attorney who handled family financial disputes and separation planning. I did not go there to file for divorce that day. I went because I needed to understand the line between a bad marital decision and misuse of financial identity. The attorney reviewed the basic timeline and gave me practical instructions. Do not hide marital funds. Do not drain joint accounts. Keep paying agreed household expenses. Put financial boundaries in writing. Preserve statements, emails, voicemails, and messages. Do not sign anything. Do not threaten anyone. Keep my credit frozen until the situation was fully resolved. She also told me to write down every conversation while it was fresh. Protecting your credit is not the same thing as financial abuse, she said. But make sure your actions stay protective, not retaliatory. That distinction mattered to me. I did not want revenge that would make me look like the person Audrey was describing. I wanted the truth documented so clearly that nobody could talk around it. When I got home, Audrey was sitting on the couch with her knees pulled up. Her phone was in her hand. My mother says you're trying to scare me into obedience. Your mother is not part of our financial decisions anymore. She's worried about me. She was not worried when you put my information into a loan. She says I own half of everything. She can put her half of everything on Landon's loan. Audrey looked away. Then she said, Mom sent me a voicemail. You should hear the way she talks to me. She forwarded it to me, probably expecting it to prove that she was under family pressure. Instead, Sheila's voice came through the speaker saying, Stop asking Derek like he gets the final say. You are his wife. Start acting like you own half of everything. If he says no, remind him what people will think when they hear he refused to help your brother. The voicemail ended. Audrey stared at the floor. I saved it. That does not help your argument, I said. I know. It was the first honest thing she had said since the restaurant. I asked her whether Landon's debt was really $48,000 of ordinary bills. She hesitated. What aren't you telling me? It's mostly debt. That is not an answer. He had some betting losses. How much? I don't know exactly. You knew about sports betting and still asked me to co-sign? He stopped. When? She rubbed her forehead. And there was a trip, she said. What trip? A weekend with friends. It was already booked. I remembered the hotel charge from years earlier and felt something in me settle into place. What else? A new TV. Some equipment. I don't know everything. So the emergency is partly real and partly Landon not wanting to sell anything or change his life. He's overwhelmed. So am I. I'm just not asking him to pay interest on it. Audrey told me I was enjoying being right. I told her there was nothing enjoyable about learning my wife had hidden gambling losses while using our anniversary to demand my signature. That night, I sent her one written message even though we were under the same roof. I need a clear answer in writing. Did you give Landon my personal information so he could begin a cosigner file? And did you tell him you would get me to sign after I initially refused? She replied 20 minutes later. I gave him household paperwork because I believed you would help once you calmed down. I told him you would probably sign after we talked as a family. I did not authorize him to finalize anything. I saved the message. Then I asked, did you know part of his debt involved sports betting, a weekend trip, and non-essential purchases? Her reply came faster. I knew about some of it. I thought the consolidation loan would help him stop the cycle. That was enough. Over the next several days, the smear campaign got worse. An aunt called to tell me Audrey should not have to beg her husband for grocery money. She did not have to beg for grocery money. A cousin sent a paragraph about emotional abuse and financial control. Audrey still had access to thousands of dollars in the joint household account and all of her personal income. Lauren asked to meet for coffee. She sat across from me with both hands around her cup and said, Audrey made it sound like you cut off every account after refusing to help her brother. I froze my credit after the bank called me about an application I never authorized. Her expression changed. What application? I took out my phone and showed her the bank's written confirmation that I had refused authorization. Then I showed her the $1,250 transfer to Landon, the picture of his message about making me look controlling, and Audrey's written admission that she had provided household paperwork. I did not send Lauren our full financial history. I did not need to. She read everything twice. She never mentioned the loan file, she said. I know. She said you embarrassed her because she asked you to help family. She brought her mother and brother to our anniversary dinner, put my ring in a glass, and told me to sign or stop calling myself her husband. Lauren looked sick. I repeated what she told me. I'm not asking you to take my side. I'm asking you not to repeat a lie you haven't checked. I'm sorry. Her apology was short and uncomfortable, which made it believable. 2 days later, Audrey told me Sheila wanted one more family conversation. No, I said. She says everyone needs closure. Everyone had closure when I said no. She thinks you've made Landon look like a criminal. I have not spoken to him since the restaurant. She wants to discuss what happens next. What happens next is that I am not co-signing. Audrey sat across from me at the kitchen table. What happens to us? That depends on whether this is a marriage or a financial collection service for your brother. She flinched. I'm willing to set boundaries. Then we do it in writing, with counseling, and without your mother managing the conversation. She won't accept that. She is not the person I married. Audrey asked me to attend a brunch at Sheila's house. She said Landon would be there and that she wanted the false story corrected in front of the same people who had heard it. I did not fully trust her reason, but I agreed under conditions. I would leave the moment anyone tried to pressure me into signing. I would not bring original documents. I would not surrender my phone or discuss account passwords. Grant would know where I was, and I would speak after everyone else finished. The morning of the brunch, I put a few printed pages into a plain sealed envelope. Not hundreds of pages. Not every statement from 7 years. Just enough. The bank's written confirmation that I had not authorized the application. The $1,250 transfer to Landon. A one-page list of the prior unpaid amounts. Audrey's message admitting she gave him household paperwork and expected me to sign. The photo of Landon's text telling her to make me look controlling. A transcript of Sheila's voicemail. The message where Audrey admitted she knew about the betting losses and trip. Audrey saw the envelope when we got into the car. What's that? The conversation everyone insisted on having. She did not ask again. Sheila had invited 2 of Audrey's relatives and Lauren. I was not pleased about the extra audience, but I understood why Sheila had done it. She believed numbers would look cold beside her version of family loyalty. Landon was already angry when I arrived. He did not say hello. The table was covered with eggs, toast, fruit, coffee, and plates nobody seemed interested in using. Sheila opened the discussion. This family has suffered enough embarrassment, she said. We need to resolve this like adults. I waited. Landon leaned forward. You ruined my chance to rebuild. I waited. Audrey said. Derek froze his credit and removed me from his card without discussing it. I waited. One of the relatives said marriage was supposed to be a partnership. I waited. Sheila gave me the same disappointed look she had used years earlier. Family helps family. I looked at her. How much are you willing to co-sign? Her mouth tightened. That is not the point. It is exactly the point. I don't have Derek's credit. Then you understand why Landon wants mine. Landon slapped his palm against the table. I am not asking you to pay it. I'm asking you to stand behind me. You have never repaid the smaller amounts I stood behind. This is different. How? It would give me one payment. What is the interest rate? He looked at Audrey. What is the monthly payment? I asked. He looked at Sheila. What part of the $48,000 comes from sports betting? The room went still. Landon's face changed. Audrey whispered, Derek. What part comes from the trip? The new TV? The other purchases you did not want anyone to know about. Sheila stared at Landon. What is he talking about? Landon pushed his chair back a few inches. This is why I did not want him involved in the details. You wanted me involved in the debt, I said. Just not the details. Audrey started crying. You're humiliating me again. I placed the sealed envelope on the table. You created the audience when you told people I financially controlled you. You wanted everyone involved. So everyone can see why I said no. I opened the envelope and laid out the pages one by one. I did not make a speech. I showed the bank confirmation first. This is the file started with my name before I agreed. Then the transfer. This left our joint account 6 days before the dinner. I was not told. Then Audrey's written admission. She gave Landon household paperwork because she assumed she could get me to sign. Then the lock screen message. He told her to make me look controlling because he believed public pressure would make me fold. Then Sheila's voicemail transcript. She told Audrey to stop asking and act like she owned half of everything, and to use other people's opinions against me. Sheila reached for the page. That voicemail was private. You left it. Audrey forwarded it to me. You are twisting a mother's concern. I printed your words. Lauren looked at Audrey. You told me Derek cut you off from everything. I was upset. You still had the joint account? Audrey wiped her face. Yes. And your own money? Yes. And he kept paying the mortgage and household bills. Yes. Lauren leaned back in her chair and said nothing else. Landon grabbed the one-page list of what he owed us. You kept all this. I did not remember all of it until I checked the statements. This is insane. What is inaccurate? He scanned the page but did not answer. Sheila tried to pull the conversation back toward loyalty. Numbers on paper do not tell the whole story. They tell enough of it to explain why I will not guarantee $48,000. Audrey was trying to save her brother. She was willing to risk her husband's credit and reputation to do it. Audrey stood up. You're making me sound like some criminal. I have not used that word. You brought documents to my mother's house. You brought relatives to pressure me after lying to them. You could have handled this privately. I tried. You turned private boundaries into public accusations. She stared at the papers. Her breathing was fast. For the first time, she did not have a sentence ready. Then Landon lost his temper. He shoved the list away. You said you could control him. Audrey turned toward him. What? You said he always folds once people are watching. You said you could handle him and get the signature. The room went silent. Landon kept going because anger had stripped away the victim act. What good was all this if you couldn't get him to sign? Now the bank flagged everything, and nobody else is going to touch it. Audrey looked at her brother as if she had never seen him clearly before. You told me you needed help. I didn't need help. You just said I was supposed to control my husband. You knew what I meant. No, she said quietly. I don't think I did. Sheila told Landon to calm down, but he was already past pretending. A real family would have gotten this done before it became a circus. I looked at him. You made it a circus because you thought shame was cheaper than repayment. He called me cold. I told him cold was better than dishonest. Then I turned to Audrey. I am going to say this once. She sat down slowly. If there is any chance of continuing this marriage, the conditions are clear. You correct the story you told. You acknowledge in writing that my information and credit will never be used for Landon or anyone else without my direct consent. We attend counseling. We use a transparent budget. Landon does not ask me for money, cards, loans, signatures, transfers, or access again. She opened her mouth, but I continued. If you refuse any of that, I proceed with legal separation. I am not negotiating my credit score at a dinner table again. Sheila said, you cannot make her choose between you and her family. I am not asking her to stop loving her family. I am asking her to stop sacrificing me to manage them. Audrey cried harder. This is cruel. Tears are not accountability. She looked up at me. Do you even love me? I loved you enough to tolerate things I should have stopped years ago. That is part of why we are here. She covered her face with both hands. I gathered the pages and put them back in the envelope. Then I told her, I will talk when you're ready to be my wife, not your brother's collection agent. I left. The bank formally denied the application after my refusal and review flag. Landon called Audrey for 3 days, not to apologize, but to complain that she had failed him. He blamed her for promising something she could not deliver. He blamed Sheila for inviting the wrong relatives. He blamed me for weaponizing paperwork. He did not blame himself. Once the betting losses and trip became known, the relatives who had been sending me lectures became much less interested in helping him. One aunt asked Sheila why she did not cosign. Sheila stopped using family helps family around anyone who could ask the same question. Landon eventually had to sell the new television, some expensive sports equipment, and a watch he had claimed was a gift. He canceled 2 event tickets and contacted his creditors himself. The consolidation loan was gone, so he had to negotiate separate payment plans and accept the late fees he had spent years pushing onto other people. He still told anyone who would listen that I had ruined his fresh start. What I ruined was his access to mine. Audrey's consequences were slower and more painful. For the first week, she went back and forth between apology and accusation. 1 hour she said she understood why I froze my credit. The next she said I was humiliating her by keeping the separation in place. I moved into the guest room first. 3 days later, I left to stay elsewhere while the attorney helped me formalize temporary financial boundaries. I continued paying the agreed household expenses. Audrey paid her personal bills from her income. The joint account stayed open for legitimate shared obligations, with alerts and no transfers to Landon. I did not move back because she cried. I did not file for divorce in anger either. I waited to see what she did when guilt stopped working. 2 weeks after the brunch, Audrey sent a correction to the relatives and friends she had contacted. She wrote that I had not denied her access to food, housing, household money, or her own income. She admitted she had given Landon information from our paperwork before I agreed to co-sign. She acknowledged that I had frozen my credit only after the bank contacted me about the incomplete application. She did not call herself a victim in the correction. Lauren forwarded me a short message afterward. She told the truth this time. I'm sorry again. Audrey also signed a written agreement that neither of us would use the other's identity, credit, cards, or personal accounts for any third party without direct written consent. She agreed that no money from our joint household account would go to Landon. Then she began counseling with me. The first session did not fix anything. Neither did the second. Audrey spent most of the early sessions explaining how she had been raised to believe that protecting Landon was proof of being a good daughter. When the counselor asked what being a good wife required, Audrey went quiet. She eventually admitted that she had spent years managing two different stories. To me, she said every request was temporary and reasonable. To Landon, she said I would come around if he gave her time. To Sheila, she said she was working on me. To friends, she said I made money tense and difficult. Each story helped her avoid saying no to somebody. I asked where that left me. She said, as the person who was supposed to absorb it. That answer hurt, but at least it was honest. Months later, we were still not back to normal. That was intentional. Our finances remained separated except for the joint household account. My credit stayed frozen. Landon was blocked from contacting me. Sheila had not apologized and probably never would, but she no longer had access to our decisions. Audrey met her mother in public places and left whenever the conversation turned to asking me for money. She also stopped defending Landon's crisis as if it had happened to him by accident. I have not promised Audrey that the marriage will survive. She knows counseling, written boundaries, and corrections are not a performance she completes to earn immediate forgiveness. They are the minimum conditions for me to keep considering reconciliation. Some days, I believe she finally understands. Other days, I think she just understands what she lost access to. Either way, my name is no longer available for family emergencies. For 7 years, I thought being a good husband meant proving I would always show up. Now I understand that showing up does not mean standing still while people use the door you kept opening. I still wear my wedding ring, but I no longer mistake it for a signature. If you like the stories, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.